This program is made possible by the loyal financial support of the friends and partners of Family Policy Institute.
You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world.
Good evening and welcome to Salt and Light. Thank you for joining us. It's once again my great privilege to welcome Reverend Kenneth, Meshoe and Cheryllyn Dudley, ACDP MPs, to our studio to talk about what happened at the State of the Nation address on the 9th of February. So Reverend Kenneth Meshoe, welcome and thank you for joining us once again.
Thank you.
And Cheryllyn Dudley. Always great to have you here after SONA. South Africans watched with growing concern the State of the Nation address at the opening of Parliament on the 9th of February. I think there is growing concern among people across the board, across South Africa, that for the third year in a row, Parliament descended into chaos. There was bricks flying, there were fistfights, profanities in the House. A shocking state of affairs that is really getting people worried. And so the question, Pastor Kenneth, I want to pose to you first is Jacob Zuma losing control? And the second question is, where is this all taking us?
Well, he obviously has lost respect of many South Africans, including members of Parliament. What happened last Thursday night was disgraceful, embarrassing, shocking, and caused people's hearts to be full of sadness. I think the presiding officers could have done a better job, because we all knew before the event that there was going to be chaos, that there were plans to cause trouble. And the presiding officers also knew.
So are you saying the EFF made their intentions known, that they were going to disrupt the proceedings?
Yes, yeah. The intentions were known. So we went into the House expecting what happened to happen. But what I personally did not expect was that it would take that long. I thought the presiding officers would step in and enforce the rules. If people would object later on that they were not given enough time to voice their opinions or to raise points of order, under the circumstances, something should have happened beforehand. And I think input from the ACDP would be that once members of Parliament, and particularly the whips of Parliament, agree on the rules, they must be enforced. Because if they are not enforced, we are going to have a repeat of the chaos we saw last Thursday night that is making us a laughingstock of the world.
Absolutely. Now that laughingstock is an issue that obviously concerns a lot of South Africans, because these images went all over the world on television screens all over the world. So Cheryllyn, we're recording this program on the 14th of February. It's Valentine's Day. And you and Pastor Kenneth and Steve Swart, who unfortunately was unable to be in the studio today to record this program because he's in a committee meeting. But you're going to be going back to the debate on SONA, and no love between opposition MPs and the ANC MPs. We saw an ANC MP actually use the F word right across the floor in the National Assembly to, I think it was a DA member, which was a shocking state of affairs. And so, you know, you spoke a lot about the agenda of the EFF, and then there was a walkout by the DA. You know, do you think all of that is staged, and what do you think the objectives are from the opposition parties when they do that?
Yeah, I think people don't realize the level of frustration, and the degree of frustration that we would feel is felt even to a greater extent within the ANC in terms of the presiding officers not actually taking control sooner. Now, the difficulty, of course, for Parliament is the presiding officers are meant to be there for all parties. So they are so extremely conscious of not looking like they're trying to protect the ANC. So they want to look like they are giving the DA and the EFF every opportunity and they're not shutting down on the freedoms of speech, because you know the DA and the EFF play that narrative so well with the media, that the minute anybody wants to just simply apply the rules of Parliament, they are now ruling with an iron fist, and it actually reflects badly suddenly somehow on the majority party, who actually are the ones who would like the Speaker and the presiding officers to act immediately. Because we all know it's wrong, we all know we've got rules, and we all know those rules should be applied. So in a sense, our presiding officers are bending over backwards to accommodate the DA and the EFF, and it's not working. And they need to rethink that strategy.
And I think for them to get the support of the public do not want to see what happened continuing. The public would agree with the presiding officers if they put their foot down and say, regardless of what you are going to say, regardless of what will be reported in the media, there must be order in the House. The public expects that to happen, and they must do that.
Dudley, but you know, before SONA, what happens is the DA start this campaign of the presiding officers are going to shut down on freedom. So they start a campaign way before. They start talking about, we all know what's going to happen on that day when all of the cameras are there for whoever wants to get the media attention. The DA say it's not going to happen. And this is ridiculous that we've got any kind of security in place, and you mustn't make the kind of preparations that any responsible parliament would make, knowing what we're going to face. So the DA campaign that leads up to that starts to sell people on the idea that parliament is preparing to clamp down on freedom of speech. So it's so, I think what people don't really see from the outside is the way that the two main opposition parties have chipped away at the confidence of the presiding officers and almost put them on a spot. They're between a rock and a hard place. The other thing is that there's a frustration because those two parties are needling specific people in that House who they know perhaps have a short fuse or are going to come up with some profanity if they are pushed to a certain degree. So there's a lot of targeting of certain people. And what you don't hear on camera is the rude and gender type insinuations that are aimed at those people who eventually explode. So everybody's reacting to the explosion, and nobody's commenting on what people are doing to get that
behind
reaction.
the scenes. So what you're saying, that everything we experienced and saw at SONA on the 9th of February was carefully staged by certain people for maximum media attention,
right,
and there's agendas behind it.
For their personal gain.
Absolutely. But what that brings us to then, Pastor Kenneth Meshoe, is what can we expect from Parliament for 2017? If it starts like that, and we see all these agendas playing out, what can the people of South Africa expect from Parliament, from the elected representatives?
We know that the first important thing that the people of South Africa expect from Parliament is leaders who set a good example for their children, leaders who would be role models. They need to be confident that what Parliament is going to bring out will be something that will be in the best interest of the country. Members out there are not expecting MPs to be fighting all together and all the time, but they're expecting members of Parliament to come up with legislation that will improve the living conditions of South Africans. But if there are battles and fightings such as we saw when Parliament was opening with the State of the Nation address, then many people are saying, what is going to happen next? Are they going to continue doing what they're doing? Are they continue fighting? Are they going to shoot one another and kill one another? Because obviously you know that the EFF has said we'll meet you in the streets. So people are concerned. What they've seen in Parliament, is it going to be replicated and lived out and acted out in the streets? Because they've heard members of Parliament say we'll meet you in the streets.
Yeah, but this conflict in Parliament has already spilled out into the streets. We've seen examples of that, this hatred and this conflict and this opposition to each other, ANC, EFF, DA. What happens is the people, the followers of these political parties, see the behavior of their leaders in Parliament, and so they say we can do the same thing.
Correct.
So we're going to attack each other, throw bricks and fight and do all of these things because and it's worrying because it's almost giving people carte blanche or license to misbehave, to not follow democracy and use the organs of state to express yourself. Now it's okay to scream, shout. He who shouts the loudest will get heard.
It is worrying, but what is even more worrying is to hear Christians applaud what they've seen. Yeah. To hear Christians repeat the language that is used by some ungodly and unbelievers. Now, I would want to appeal to Christians that we must be peacemakers. Even though we disagree, I disagree with the president. She disagrees, the ACDP disagrees with the president. We don't like a number of things that he's doing and saying. But at the same time, there is a level of respect that comes from us, and that must come from us as Christians, that even though we don't agree with him, he's still the head of state. That must be respected. And when we voice our disagreements, we should do that respectfully. So it is the Christians in society that must be salt and light. That should be saying to members of the public who are becoming rowdy, who are becoming intolerant, who are becoming aggressive, that guys, this is not the way to build the nation. Right. We want to have a prosperous nation. South Africa has the potential to be one of the best countries in the world. But for South Africa to be like that, it's going to need men and women with sound minds, particularly Christians, who will become role models and who will become peacemakers. Christians who will not participate in the aggression and the violence that's been perpetrated by some people. So we need to make an appeal to Christians. Remember.
I agree with that, Pastor Kenneth, because the Bible clearly says, blessed are the peacemakers, because they will be called sons of God.
Correct.
So, Cheryllyn, getting the work done in Parliament now for the rest of this year, there's so many pressing issues. There's the student crisis, there's the poverty issues, the lack of housing, all kinds of issues that government needs to get a grip on. But how are we going to do this if we have all these agendas and staged walkouts and aggression in Parliament? How do you see it happening?
Well, Errol, there is a lot on Parliament's programme, starting now with budgets. Well, first of all, the SONA debates, going into budgets, and then all of the other pieces of legislation and amendments and things that have to be dealt with. There's a lot to do, but I have got full confidence that we will get it done. You've got to know that there's nothing new about what's been happening. I mean, the DA were walking out long before 2014 on a constant playing of games, which meant that Parliament would then not be able to vote through a bill, and we'd have to come back on another day and vote it through. So there was a lot of time wasting and budget wasting, because that brings back the whole staff of Parliament and people stay long hours, and this is problematic. But it doesn't stop the work of Parliament, because those who are there to actually take this nation forward, to do what is right for the people of South Africa, those people who are not there for personal gain and are not playing those power games like the DA and the EFF, those people are committed to getting the job done. So the rest of us get it done. So now, yes, 2014, all of this game playing accelerated because of the EFF, and we were sitting there till 2 o'clock in the morning often because of having to, the problem in the beginning was that the ANC were determined that basically people are all good, and if you just are nice enough to them, they'll all do the right thing, and that they wanted to find a political solution. There was no political solution to this, because the EFF made election promises. The election promise they made was to destabilise Parliament, en route to destabilising government, pulling down everything and anything they could so that they could suddenly take over.
And they've been true to their word.
They've been true to their word.
That's exactly what they have done. But
it hasn't destabilised Parliament, and the work has been done.
It's still going on. So we'll take your word for that. What people are saying is that the president is being pushed more and more into a corner. And as he gets pushed into this corner, he's going to become more and more dangerous. And we're going to see a lot more things like government overreach into the church, into family, into freedom of speech and all those kind of things. But we have to go for a break now. And when we come back, we'll talk more with Cheryllyn Dudley and Pastor Kenneth Meshoe about, is Zuma in a corner?